Dear students, in this video I'm going to explain you Act 3 Scene 1. This scene takes place in Venice Street, and initially there are two main characters in the scene, Celanio and Celerino. Celanio asks Celerino, now what news on Rialto? So he is asking Celerino that what is the news on Rialto, the stock exchange. Celerino says, why yet it lives there unchecked that Antonio hath a ship of rich landing wrecked on the narrow seas. So he says that there has been a report that cannot be denied, that without any contradiction there is a report that a ship of Antonio with rich cargo has been wrecked at narrow seas. The Goodwins, they are the sandbags in narrow seas. I think they call the place. So the place where the ship has been wrecked is also called Goodwins. What is Goodwins now? A very dangerous flat and fatal where the carcasses of many tall ships lie buried. So he says that at this place called Goodwins, it is very dangerous and shallow place, and at this place many remains of ships lie buried. So this place is known for with here lots of ships have been miscarried, and this is the place where the remains of ships lie. As they say, if my gossip report be an honest woman of her word. He says if the gossip report here is personified as a woman, and he's saying that if this gossip report is true, then definitely Antonio's ship has been wrecked at narrow seas, the Goodwins, because this is the place that is known for many shipwrecks, and many bodies of ship lie there that have been wrecked at Goodwins. On hearing this, Celanio says, I would she were as lying a gossip. So he says, I would means I wish. So he wishes that she here is the gossip report. So he's saying that I wish that this gossip report were as lying a gossip in that as ever napped ginger, or made her neighbors believe she wept on the death of a third husband. So he wishes, Celanio wishes, that this gossip report, what is the gossip report? The gossip report is that Antonio's ship has been wrecked at narrow seas, the Goodwins. So at Goodwins, he says that I wish that this gossip report is not true. So in the beginning, we have found that Celerino says that this gossip report is almost true without any contradiction. But now Celanio wishes that I wish that this gossip report is as false as a lady who naps ginger, that means who chew ginger, so that maybe tears come in her eye, and she makes her neighbors believe that she is weeping on the death of her third husband. So a lady who's eating ginger and pretending to cry on the death of her third husband, she's actually not a true woman. So he's saying that I wish that this gossip about Antonio's shipwreck is also as false as the woman who napped the ginger, and she makes her neighbors believe that she is weeping on the death of her third husband. But it is true. So he's saying, but she says that the news is true, the gossip report is true. She wishes that it would be false. So, but he says that the news is true without any slips of prolixity or crossing the plain highway of talk. He says in simple words, he means that the good Antonio, the honest Antonio, oh, that I had little good enough to keep his name company. So he's struggling for words to describe the goodness of Antonio. So he calls him good Antonio, honest Antonio. Then he wishes that if he had some more words to add to Antonio's name so as to praise him. Celerino, come, the full stop. So when he says that without saying more, I mean the report has been true. So Celerino says, okay then, let's no more talk on the topic. So now on hearing this, Celanio says, what sayest thou? Why the end is he hath lost a ship. He's saying, what are you saying? You mean the end is that Antonio has lost a ship? So on hearing this, Celerino says, I would it might prove the end of his losses. He says, again, I would means I wish. He says, I wish that this is the last ship of Antonio that has been wrecked, means he does not suffer with any more losses. So he's wishing that Antonio does not suffer with any more losses. On hearing this, Salanio says, "Let me say amen betimes, lest the devil cross my prayer." So he says, so these Christians have this custom of saying amen every time they wish something, because they believed that if the devil passes by, the wish will not come to be true. So here also, when Salarino wishes that this was the end of Antonio's losses, so Salanio says, "Let me say amen," because he says, I don't want the devil to cross my prayer, because he's seeing Shylock approaching towards them. So he says, "For here he comes in the likeliness of a Jew." He says, I could see a devil coming by, so let me say amen. So here the devil he is referring to is Shylock, the Jew. Now Shylock has entered. He is asking, "How now, Shylock? What news among the merchants?" So he is asking Shylock that what is the news. He's asking Salarino and Salanio that what is the news among the merchants. Salanio asks Shylock that what is the news among the merchants. Shylock says, "You knew none so well as you of my daughter's flight." So if you remember, we have read earlier that Jessica has run away, has eloped with Lorenzo, and he's talking about Jessica here. He says that I know that nobody other than you know that where my daughter is. So nobody other than you know about my daughter's escape. On hearing this, Salarino says, "That's certain." He's saying, "Yes, you're very true. Who else will know about your daughter's flight? Then, no, I for my part knew the tailor that made the wings she flew withal." She's saying, so he's talking about flight, means my daughter has flown away. So he's just talking in a sarcastic way. He's saying, yes, I would be knowing, certainly I will be knowing that where your daughter is, because I know the tailor who has made wings for her, and by using those wings, she has flown away. So on hearing this, Salanio also adds, "And Shylock, for his own part, knew the bird was fleshed." So who's the bird here? Jessica. So he's saying that you might be aware that the bird was fleshed, the bird was ready to fly. And then it is the complexion. Complexion here means nature of them means of the birds, to leave the dam, to leave the mother. So he's saying that the bird was grown up, and it is the nature of birds that they leave the mother when they grow up. So that is what Jessica has done. She was all a mature girl now, and she's run away, she's left you. Shylock, she's damned for it. So he's saying that she's going to go to hell for running away, for eloping with Lorenzo. Salarino, "That's certain, if the devil may be her judge." He's saying if the devil is judging her act, then definitely she'll go to hell, she'll be damned. Shylock, "My own flesh and blood to rebel." So he's saying my own flesh and blood, that is Jessica, has rebelled against me, has gone against me. Salarino, "There is more difference between thy flesh and hers than between jet and ivory." So when Shylock says that she's my own flesh and blood, so Salarino is trying to tell him that there's lots of difference between you and Jessica. So he's contrasting between Jessica and Shylock by saying that there is lots of difference between your flesh. So he's saying that she's my flesh and my blood. So first he says that how she's different in terms of flesh from you. He says that difference between your flesh and her flesh is like between jet and ivory. So jet and ivory are black and white metal. So he's saying as jet and ivory totally contrast each other, similarly you and Jessica have difference in your flesh. More between your bloods, he says, then there is lots of difference between blood of your two than there is between red wine and Rhenish. So red wine is a cheap wine and Rhenish wine is a white colored Germany wine. So he's saying as there is a difference between red wine and Rhenish wine, so is the difference between your bloods, between Jessica's blood and between Shylock's blood. But tell us, do you hear whether Antonio have had any losses at sea or not? So now Salarino is asking Shylock that whether you know about Shylock's losses. So on hearing this, Shylock says, there I have another bad match. So what bad match is he talking about? Antonio. So he says, see, one bad match is that Jessica has run away, taking away his money and precious jewels and precious stones. So he's saying that I have another bad match. Why did he call him bad match? Because he had lended him 3,000 ducats and now he's become a bankrupt. So he says, I have another bad match, a bankrupt, a prodigal. So he's calling Antonio a bankrupt and a prodigal who dares show his head on Rialto. So he's saying that he should not dare to show his face at Rialto now. A beggar that was used to come so smug upon the mart. So he's saying he used to come so self-satisfied at the stock exchange, at the Rialto. Now he shouldn't dare to show his head. Let him look to his bond. So now he's very keen to take revenge. He says he should be very careful. He should look to his bond. He was wont to call me usurious. He says he used to call me, he used to abuse me for taking interest. Let him look to his bond. He says, let me see his bond now. He was wont to lend money for Christian courtesy. Let him look to his bond. So he is just recalling whatever he had done to him. So he used to lend money out of Christian courtesy and he used to bring down the business of Shylock. So Shylock as a money lender used to lend money to the people and this Antonio used to give money to people out of courtesy without charging any interest, and this way Shylock's money rate, the interest rate used to come down. So he's saying that he used to harm my business by showing this Christian courtesy. So now let him see to this bond. So on hearing this, Celerino says, why, I'm sure if he forfeit, thou wilt not take his flesh. What's that good for? He's saying, I am very sure that even if the bond is forfeited, you are anyway not going to take flesh of Antonio, because that's of no use to you. So on hearing this, Shylock says, to bait fish withal. So what is bait? So if you have ever seen anybody fishing, the fishing rod has a small piece of flesh attached to it that is used to trap fish. That is called bait. She says, I will use the flesh as a bait to catch fish. If it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. He says, if it will not help me in any way, at least I will be satisfied because I'll take my revenge. He had disgraced me and hindered me 500,000. So he had says humiliated me, abused me, insulted me, and he has also prevented me from making 500,000 profit. He has laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation. So he says he has despised my race, the Jewish race. He has criticized my Jewish race. He has mocked, he has made fun of my gains, and he has laughed at my losses. Then he adds, thwarted my bargains. He says that he has interfered in my business deals, cooled my friends. He has diminished his friends' affection, reduced his friends' affection towards him, heated my enemies. He had ignited his enemies, incited his enemies against him. And what's his reason? He says, why did he do that? I am a Jew. So he's saying he did all this to me just because I am a Jew. So he recalls whatever bad Antonio had done to him. And then he says he has done all this just because I am a Jew. Now he's comparing Jews to Christians. He says, hath not a Jew eyes? He says, do not the Jews have eyes? So he's just trying to convey that the Jews and Christians are same in every aspect. Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? He says we have everything same as Christians have. We have hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections and passions. So then he adds, fed with the same food, heard with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is. So he's saying we are very much similar to Christians. So like Christians have same kind of affections, passions, and if we even like them, we feed on the same kind of food. We are hurt with the same weapon. We also are prone to various kinds of diseases, and we are also healed by the same means. We also feel warmth and heat of summer as Christians too. So he says, if you prick us, do we not bleed? So if you prick, you understand what's prick? Prick means when you pin somebody's flesh, so blood comes out. So he says, we also, when you prick us, we will also bleed like Christians do. If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you tickle us, we also laugh like Christians do. If you poison us, do we not die? So he's saying, if you give us poison, then will we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? So now he's just trying to justify. See what Celerino had said. So Celerino said that anyway, if the bond gets forfeited, you're not going to take his flesh. That's of no use to you. So he is giving all this reasons here to justify his action. He's saying, I will bait fish with his flesh. If it will feed nothing else, at least it will feed my revenge. Then he recalls whatever bad he had done to him. Then he carries on that how both Jews and Christians are similar. So he's saying that if a Jew will do wrong, if a Christian will do wrong to us, then will we not take revenge? So he says, if a Jew wrong a Christian, so he says, and if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like in you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. He says, if we are similar to you in all other aspects, then we will resemble you in this too. Then he adds saying, if a Jew wrong a Christian, what is the humility? So he's saying that if a Jew does wrong to a Christian, what is his humility? Means, will he show patience? So he just wants to, again, prove himself right. He's saying if a Jew will do wrong to Christian, then he is not going to show any kind of patience, revenge. So he's saying, what will he do? He'll take revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian examples? So now he's saying that we are just following the Christians. We are following what they will be doing. So if a Jew does wrong to a Christian, he's going to take revenge. He's saying, so am I. So this, if I'm taking a pound of flesh from his body, then I'm taking my revenge. And Christians have taught us to do that. The villainy you teach me, he says, you have taught me to be villain. The Christians have taught me to be villain. I will execute, and it shall go hard, but I will better the instructions. He says, you have given me the instructions. He says, it will be strange if I do not improve upon the lesson you have taught me. So he's saying that Christians have taught us to be villainous. And if I do not prove to be better in my taking my lessons, then it wouldn't be good. So he's saying, I am just being better and I'm following the instructions that are given by Christians. So he's just trying to justify that if he takes a pound of flesh from Antonio's body, he's not doing any wrong in that. It is just, he's just following what Christians do. So now enters a servant. Gentlemen, my master Antonio is at his house and desires to speak with you both. So he's saying that Antonio is at his house and he desires to talk to Celerino and Silanio. So on hearing this, Celerino says, we have been up and down to seek him. He says that we had been looking for him everywhere. Silanio, here comes another of his tribe. So he sees Tubal coming, approaching towards them. Tubal is another Jew, a friend of Shylock. And he says that there comes another of his tribe, another of his religion. A third cannot be matched unless the devil himself turns Jew. He says that third one has to be devil. If they have to match these two, because there cannot be any other match. Both of them are equally devilish and cruel, and it will be hard to find a third match to these two unless the devil himself turns into a Jew. So now Celerino and Silanio, they leave, and the servant also leaves, and Tubal enters. Now Shylock and Tubal are conversing. Shylock says, How now, Tubal? What news from Genoa? Hast thou found my daughter? How now is just a way of saying hello or greeting. So now Shylock is asking Tubal that what is the news he's brought from Genoa. So he's sent him to Genoa place where he thought that Jessica is, and he's saying that, have you found my daughter? Tubal, I often came where I did hear of her, but cannot find her. Says that I heard of her at many places. I went to all those places, but I couldn't find her. Why there? A diamond gone cost me 2,000 ducats in a Frankfurt. So he's saying, alas, I'm sorry. So he says that a diamond that cost me 2,000 ducats in Frankfurt is lost because Jessica had taken that diamond along with her. So the curse never fell upon my nation till now. So he's saying the curse never fell upon my people. Such kind of curse has never fallen upon my people till now. People here is upon my nation till now means upon my people of Jewish religion. So he's saying this is the first time that any Jewish person is suffering like this. I'll never felt it till now. 2,000 ducats in that. He says he's just recalling whatever Jessica has stolen. First he recalls that she has taken away a diamond that costed him, that had a cost of 2,000 ducats. Then he says that she is also taken along with her 2,000 ducats. In that means this diamond that costed him 2,000 ducats he has taken. And what else has he taken? 2,000 ducats, a diamond, other precious jewels. So he just recalls what all Jessica has taken along. I would my daughter were, I would means again, I wish. He says, I would my daughter were dead at my foot and the jewels in her ear. So he wishes that Jessica was dead at her foot and she was wearing all the jewels in her ears. Then he says, would she were hearsed at my foot. So he's saying that he's again wishing that she was dead at her foot and the ducats in her coffin. So he wishes that she was dead at his foot and there were the ducats she has stolen were there in the coffin. So she's wishing that her daughter is dead wearing all the jewels and the ducats in her coffin. No news of them? He's asking again, Tubal, that don't you hear, haven't you heard anything about them? Why so? I know not what's spent in search. So he's saying that I am spending so much in searching Jessica. Why thou lost upon loss? He's saying I am suffering from loss upon loss. The thief gone with so much and so much to find the thief. The thief here is Jessica. He's saying that thief has run away with so much and I am again spending so much to find the thief. And no satisfaction, no revenge, nor no ill luck stirring, but what lights on my shoulder, no sighs but of my breathings, no tears but of my shedding. So he's saying that ill lucks, the entire ill luck is falling upon me. I am the one who's suffering all the misfortune. No ill luck stirring but the lights on my shoulder. What lights on my shoulder? He's saying all the ill luck is falling on me, on my shoulders. And he says no sighs but of my breathings. He says there's no one else who's grieving or who's sad other than me. No tears but of my shedding. He says there's no one else shedding tears but it's only me. So on hearing this, Tubal says, yes, other man have ill luck too, Antonio, as I heard in Genoa. So he's saying it's not only you who's suffering from ill luck. There are other people also who are suffering from ill luck. Then he reminds him of Antonio that I have heard in Genoa. Shylock, what? Ill luck? Ill luck? So he's very excited to hear what is wrong with Antonio. Tubal, hath an Argosy castaway coming from Tripolis. So Tubal is telling that a ship has been wrecked that was coming from a place called Tripolis. So he's saying that Antonio's another ship has been wrecked. So he has heard in Genoa. So while he was at Genoa, he has heard that Antonio's ship coming from Tripolis has been wrecked. Shylock, I thank God, it's true. So he's happy to hear that Antonio's one more ship has been wrecked. Tubal, I spoke with some of the sailors that escaped the wreck. So who had informed that while he was coming to Venice, so there were sailors who had escaped from the shipwreck. So while the ship of Antonio, which was wrecked, many sailors had escaped from the shipwreck, and they have told Tubal that it was Antonio's ship that has been wrecked, and the ship was coming from Tripolis. Shylock, I thank thee, good Tubal. Good news. Haha. Where in Genoa? So he's saying, where did you hear about the shipwreck? In Genoa. So every time Tubal will be turning him on and off. So first he'll give him a bad news of Jessica, and then he'll make him happy by telling something about Antonio. So now Tubal is again telling him something about Jessica. He says, your daughter spent in Genoa, as I heard, in one night 80 ducats. 80 means 80 ducats. So he says, I've heard in Genoa that your daughter has spent 80 ducats in a night. Shylock, thou stickest a dagger in me. He says, as if you have stuck a knife in my chest. I shall never see my gold again. So he says, I won't be able to see my gold again. So he's surprised. 80 ducats at a sitting. 80 ducats. Says, how can anybody spend 80 ducats in a night? So in just one sitting. Tubal, there came divers of Antonio's creditors in my company to Venice. Again, he's telling him something of Antonio. So he's saying, along with me, while I was coming to Venice in my company, there were so many people who were Antonio's creditors. So Antonio had to pay money to many other people. So they also came along with Tubal to Venice, and they might have told him that Antonio is bound to pay them money. So he's saying there were divers, means there were several people who came along with him to Venice, and they told me that they were Antonio's creditors, and they also swore that sphere he cannot choose but break. He says he's left with no other choice except to go bankrupt. So his financial condition was really bad. I'm very glad of it. I'll plague him. He says, I'll torture him. I'm glad. So he's very happy because he's very keen to take his revenge. He knows by now that definitely the bond will be forfeited, and he'll be able to take the penalty, and consequently he'll be able to take his revenge. So now Tubal will again tell him something about Jessica. One of them showed me a ring that he had of your daughter for a monkey. So he says one of the person coming with him told him that your daughter had given away a ring just in exchange of a monkey. Out upon her. So out upon her means shame upon her. Thou torturest me, Tubal. He says, you're torturing me by telling me such kind of news. It was my turquoise. So turquoise is a greenish blue precious stone. I had it of Lay when I was a bachelor. Lay is Jessica's wife. So remember the name of Jessica's wife? It's Lay. So he said Lay had gifted this ring of turquoise to him when he was a bachelor. I would not have given it for wilderness of monkeys. Wilderness of monkeys here means so many monkeys together, a regiment of monkeys. So she has given it in exchange of one monkey. I wouldn't have given it for wilderness of monkeys. Tubal, but Antonio is certainly undone. So now he again tries to make Shylock happy by saying that Antonio has no choice, but he's certainly going to be undone. He's going to go bankrupt. Shylock, nay, that's true. So he's happy, and he says that it's definitely true that he's undone. Then he tells Tubal, go Tubal, fee me an officer. He says that you should go and hire me an officer of law. Bespeak him a fortnight before. He says that you should talk to him in advance. Hire him a fortnight before Antonio's debt is due. I will have the heart of him. So he is very keen. He says, I'll have the pound of flesh from his heart. If he forfeits, he says, if the bond is forfeited, then I'm definitely going to take a pound of flesh from very near to his heart. For were he out of Venice, he says that if I get rid of him, and if he is no more in Venice, I can make what merchandise I will. So he says, I can make as much as profit as I like. So if Antonio is not in Venice, then he can make lots of profit, because Antonio was the one who had hindered him from making profits, because he used to not lend, he used to give money out of courtesy to people. And people did not turn up to Shylock for for borrowing money, and that is the reason his business was running down. So says, if Antonio was not in Venice, means if Antonio was dead, if he'll take a pound of flesh from close to his heart, he's not going to survive. So saying, if Antonio is not in Venice, then I can make as much as profit as I can. Go, Tubal, and meet me at our synagogue. Synagogue is a Christian place of worship. Go, Tubal, go at our synagogue, Tubal. So he's asking him that we'll meet at the Jewish place of worship. Now you go and do the work that I've told you to do. With this, I end up the scene. In case you have any doubts, do let me know in the comment section. And I will also make a video on the next scene, Act 3, Scene 2, very soon. Thank you so much.